Alrighty, I'm just going to get straight into this because I've already had to do this before, um, and my microphone didn't work. So I went straight down into turn one. Our breaking point for turn one in the wet will be about this sign on the left here. Where's my F7? It'll be about this sign, but I mainly look for this white line, as that obviously never changes. If someone goes off here and hits that, then then yeah, you might be struggling to find your point, or you can use the 100 board here as well as a reference. But usually about the white line in very wet conditions like this is usually pretty good, or usually fairly safe. For the dry, we'll be breaking at this road, so either at the start or the end. I'm off memory, I think the end. I'm going to try and give you dry and wet points in each corner if I remember them. But I'm pretty sure dry breaking point was at the end of this road. But it's about this road anyway. And then, yeah, basically as soon as you break, you want to be going straight down to the inside of the corner. So getting as close to this inside curve as you can. And then obviously in the wet, you don't want to hit that outside curb. But in the dry, you can go all over it. I'll go out here. Yeah, so miss the inside curb, and then I very slightly hit the curb, which does slide me a little bit, but that's fine. No time lost there. In the dry, you can use heaps of that as long as you keep it valid, which is just the white line. So your right-hand side tires being on the right-hand side of the white line. And then now all of turn one is about rhythm, and how you carry the speed. So usually down to third, through the first part of turn one. Or if we break it down, we'll go turn one is this, and then turn two is the next. So it's 3 through turn one, and then into turn two, it's just down one more gear, which helps with the rotation. And obviously getting out of the corner. With people in the McLaren and stuff, you'll be short shifting a lot around here. But yeah, your gears, because there's so many weird gears around here. I remember. I think the Mustang's really weird. But I'll sort of give you a gist of where you would be short shifting if you are. You really should be short shifting out of here. I probably should have even in this lap. Yeah, I should have short shifted. Yeah, staying off the exit curb, coming all the way back over to the right, and then heading into the S's for the first time. Obviously, we want to try not to hit curbs in the wet as a rule of thumb. But through the S's, it's really tricky to actually find time without hitting them. So you've it's like a really tricky balance. In the dry, my points for the dry is literally, so there's AstroTurf there. That's where I'm aiming to put my inside wheels, over the AstroTurf in the dry. Same thing for here, aiming for the AstroTurf if it was dry. And then lastly, again, AstroTurf on the inside if it was dry. But for the wet, I hit the first curb a little bit, as you drop off the curb, it sort of pulls you around a little bit, so you can get away with it. Just missed the inside curb for the second part of the S's, and then get as far over to the right as you can, sort of about mid-track. And then just sort of miss. I was a little bit wide on the apex there, but just sort of missed the second part. Now, something I should detail quickly, actually. If you look at my brake traces here, you'll see a lot of this, like, tiny little bits of brake input through the S's, especially here. With the front engine car, that sort of just helps the rotation. it gets it to slow it down a bit more, but as well as front engine cars rotating on the brakes a lot. So I have a really low brake bias, and it sort of just helps the car rotate a little bit. There it is again there. And saves me a bit more time from waiting for the car to turn, as you can see there. But yeah, a lot of my... every time I'm changing direction, I'm hitting the brake at some point. So we'll go from here into the left while holding the brake just a tad. Change direction where we're hitting the brake. And then sort of using our throttle to modulate it. And then as soon as we change back direction to the left again, we're back on the brake, waiting for the car to rotate. Then using a lot of throttle control. Same thing into the right here. Just a very slight dab of the brake. Actually, I think it was further back. There it is. There's the dab of the brake, down a gear, up the car rotate, and get back on the throttle. In the dry in here, you would just be all over the inside curb here to help you pull you around. Obviously in the wet, you don't want to be on that. But both in the dry and the wet, you want to get back over to the right as much as you can before you flick back to the left. The dry, you obviously want to be on this inside curb as it'll help you around the corner. Though in the wet, you obviously don't want to be. In the wet, you need to be very careful of spinning up the tires here, as yeah, you're going uphill, so you'll have less traction. Then in the other corner, if you look at the bottom right here, you'll see my throttle modulation. I even have to lift off a little bit as I run onto the outside curb a little bit there. And we'll come around the corner, say good day to Michael Azar on the left hand side. Now heading into these aren't Degners, I don't know, whatever the annoying corners are. Halfway in between the 150 board is my braking point and down a gear. I also use this orange as like another sort of point. So just after that, maybe a car length after the orange board, go down one gear, cut the inside as much as you can. I could definitely cut that a lot more. As soon as you come off the curb, back on the power. Now this is probably the only time over the lap you'll probably use so much of a curb. As for whatever reason, I never found this caused me any issues. But came all the way out onto the curb. Whoops. And if we have a look here, see how right here, there's that darker patch of the AstroTurf on the left. That's my point for both the dry and the wet. To brake and go down two gears. I think it's 2 gears. It might be first. I think it's 2 though. Yep, second gear. Use the brake to rotate the car and go all the way out onto the curb. As long as, actually, I'll stay for these as well. You need to be hitting these curbs when you're straight. I have a little slide here, which gets sort of made worse because I'm on the curb. But then if we go to this part, I'm straight by the time I get onto this curb. Therefore, I don't slide at all. So you can use those curbs as long as you're coming onto the curbs with the car being straight. And there's no steering being implemented. I'll go back a little bit here. Going into the hairpin, in the dry, this will be flat. In the wet, you'll have a half lift, so you can see I have a lift. Don't touch the inside curb in the wet, whereas in the dry you'll be flat all the way to the end of this curb, and then braking at the end of the curb, both in the dry and the wet, down to first gear, trying to V off the corner as much as you can. And when I talk about a late apex, this is a lot more than what I mean. See how I don't really hit? It's hard to see there, actually. if I go here, I did it better on a previous lap, which I can show you in a second. But see how I'm not hitting my apex until like here? This sort of part of the corner here is where I'm hitting my apex, which is in the second half of the hairpin. If I'm hitting it back here, I'm going to be sent out that way, which then is making me drive more. Yes, some people will say that I actually have never tried it here, but if you're hitting your apex so early here, you're either having to overslow the car to hug the curb, or you're going to be going straight, doing your rotation here, and then driving out that way. If you find it more comfortable to do a V, then literally just do a V. So hit your apex here, drive out, do the rotation here, and then hit your second apex. However, I do think that it might be a little bit slower than what I do, as you'd be driving more track. So I basically just delay my turn in as much as I can. And yeah, so staying off the curb, hit my apex, back on the throttle, and driving out of the corner. Now a quick touch for these. Now don't touch any of this sort of stuff. It can kill you very easily. In the wet, especially this inside curb that's disappeared now, and this inside curb and this English please, the AstroTurf just here. As you can see, I hit it here and then have that little bit of a slide. So be very careful, as those things can kill you very, very easily on the straight. So just be very cautious. As well as going up this part, if it's wet enough, it'll just spin you as well. But yeah, going into Spoon now, my braking point for Spoon in the wet is as soon as I see this road. In the dry, it's on that road. So braking as soon as I've seen the road, where if I was braking in the dry, I'd be braking just as it disappears off my screen. Down into third, miss the inside curb, rotate it, try and miss the outside curb as much as you can. In the dry, you can obviously use it all, and then get as close to the inside as you can here without hitting the inside curb, as I do that perfectly there. Run it all the way out on the exit curb. As you can see, the only reason I don't spin here is because I hit the exit curb when I'm straight. So that's the reason. If you're getting thrown into walls by hitting exit curbs, then A, your TC could be too low, or B, you're not hitting the curb when the car is straight. So you need to do more of your rotation earlier in the corner. Run down to 130R now. Last 3 corners on the track. Nice and easy. Right at the 50. Probably a safer thing would be in between the two. Yeah, so it's about just in between the two. Just in between the two. Down 2 gears. Back on the throttle. This curb sort of pulls you around the corner, like tram tracks you and helps you around the corner. So probably don't be too afraid to use it. And then the braking into the chicane can be really tricky. If we can see here, right, when that sort of slither of grass starts right here where that gap is. So there's a gap of gravel just here. So there's grass, gap of gravel, gravel. Wow. Gap of gravel. And then the grass starting again. Just in between the two, so probably about where the gap of the gravel is, I go for the start of the grass, but about there. So I think this is it, just about here. You can't see because it's spray. That's nice. So there's the gap there. There it is on the brakes. Into first gear. Launch over the first part as much as you can, short shift up, get over the second, very careful and exit on that exit curb, and then short shift to help the traction out of the last corner, as getting the power down into onto the straight is a really big deal. And then just hug the inside as much as you can for a quality lap, as it shortens the distance to the flag. Any other race, you'll just be taking it straight out to the left. Now quickly, some of you may have noticed, but I'm running ABS 1 here. Now in basically every car, it's quicker in the wet to run ABS 1, as the ABS does not trigger very often. Therefore, the brakes actually do their job rather than the system trying to stop the brakes from locking up. It's just a weird ACC thing, but it makes it a lot easier and a lot nicer to brake and get the car stopped. But yeah, I think that just about does us for a lap around Suzuka in the wet. I don't think I missed any. Oh, I missed these back here for the dry, actually. The dry braking point for 130R is just the 50, and you only go down 1 gear. And then back on the throttle, use all the exit curb. And then I think the dry is the same thing for here. Might even be the 100 board. That's going off complete memory, but I'm pretty sure this is pretty similar. Another thing with the chicane, the more you can stay to the right here, the better. Obviously, as that sets you up for the left nicer. And then I think I did a pit entry. I did. Look at me. Pit entry. Just got to have a little bit of a lift so you can get into the... Oh, nice slide. So you can get into the road. Now, your braking point will be just after this orange board. But the orange board being your main marker. So you go past the orange board and then hitting the brakes pretty much straight afterwards. And then sort of just modulate it so you can get the 50 on the line. And that about does this. I'll leave you with the hot lap to leave us off. Alrighty, that does us for a lap around Suzuka. That one was a 10:44.7. This lap I showed you was a 2:10.5 dead, but it looked a little bit cleaner than the 10:44.7, which was this lap here. Which, yeah, was just a bit messy. Somehow quicker. But there's a better run through the two annoying corners. But yeah, I also used TC2 in this lap out of this hairpin. But my main thing, yeah, the main reason I didn't show it was because this spoon was really, really messy. As you can see, I hit the inside curb and then hit it again on the inside by a lot, so it sort of ruins the run. But yeah, that was a 2:10.5, a 2-minute 10.500. But the best lap I've done, and the one that's on Slim League, is this one, the 2-minute 10.447. So bugger all difference. But yeah, that does us for this fortnight's truck walk, and yeah, I hope to see you at the next one.